Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a crime film from the UK, English language, released in the year 2021, directed by Nick Nevin, and this film is called Rise of the Footsoldier Origins. So Rise of the Footsoldier Origins is about the early life of Tony Tucker, Tate and Craig Rolfe. They were three bullies in the criminal world in Essex. They were drug dealers, they used to rob people, and eventually they got up to the real heavyweights of the criminal world. And so this is all told in the first story of Rise of the Footsoldier, and this is now a franchise, and Origins is basically a prequel telling you how this all came about. So it tells the life mainly of Tony Tucker, where he starts off as a doorman and then starts to work his way up into a drug dealer, a robber, and then going up to the real heavyweights. And so how his life transpires and how these friendships come about is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Rise of the Footsoldier Origins. I had a lot of skepticism coming into this film. Now, the first movie of this franchise was absolutely fantastic. It was brutal in its authenticity of a very dirty criminal world that wasn't glorifying it like a lot of American gangster films do, and definitely stands the test of time as one of my favourite crime films. But then the second movie came in, and I thought that was much more of an action Hollywood type of movie, and it lost all the authenticity that the first film had. Then the third and fourth film came out, and I thought, okay, now you're making a mockery of it. It's basically just cashing in off the name of Rise of the Footsoldier and just flogging a cash cow until it's exhausted. And so I thought after the fourth film it was going to be exhausted, but then I learned that they've made another movie called Origins, and so I looked at the trailer and I thought, alright, well, this looks somewhat interesting. It has Vinnie Jones, and so that was a reason to go and see it. I'm a massive fan of Vinnie Jones, especially when it's a crime film. So not having too many expectations coming into it, being such a fan of the first film, I was hoping that Origins was going to be somewhat watchable. And after watching the film, I will say that it is definitely watchable. I would say it was probably the second best of the franchise. But that is not saying it's a great film, because I still feel as though Origins is cashing in off the name of Rise of the Footsoldier, because it doesn't really provide anything that was like the first film. Now, as far as mood is concerned, this is the best part of Origins. It's a very dark film. The authenticity in the brutal violence and the harsh world that you don't want to be a part of, that is present in this movie. That was something that was lacking in the other films. But this really took me back to the first movie, in that it was a world that was very unforgiving and harsh. The violence is very brutal, and it's not glorifying it, which is the criticism I have of the other movies. I thought they glorified it in a way that it was almost like a Hollywood action film, and so you're not really feeling the violence as much as you felt in the first movie. But the Origins actually takes you back to that first movie where you're not liking what you're seeing. It's because it's very painful, very unforgiving, and this is the authenticity that starts to come through into the experience. And so it's a world that is very dark and grim, and I definitely feel as though Origins really nailed what made Rise of the Footsoldier so good in the first place. You've got the acting. Now, I do have issues with the acting, and something we'll go into a little bit later, but yeah, it's good to see Terry Stone, Craig Fairbrass, Roland Manukian back in their roles. That was so iconic. You've also got Vinnie Jones. I really like Vinnie Jones' character. He's good at playing a tough guy. We all know him as the tough guy. And so if you go in there expecting a typical Vinnie Jones performance, and that's exactly what you'll get. But it's definitely, you go in to see the three. And so it's the three drug dealers and how they went about their business and their bullying, and basically the karma that was going to come back against them. And so that was all fairly decent. But unfortunately, as I said, it's definitely just cashing in off the name. The movie doesn't really go anywhere. You know exactly what's going to happen to these three because it is a prequel, and unfortunately it just doesn't provide anything where you feel rewarded. I always felt as though there were avenues in this movie that didn't really go anywhere. Vinnie Jones's character I thought was very interesting, but they didn't use him very well, and I thought as though there were many aspects that were forgotten about. So I thought that was an interesting avenue that they could have taken, but it feels as though they're not really interested in that. It just feels like a whole heap of scenes have been thrown in there just to make a feature movie, and those interesting ideas don't really take effect. And so I felt a certain sense of unrewarding quality that I really felt let down by. And also Terry Stone, Roland Manukian and Craig Fairbrass, now it's good to see them back, but this is a prequel, and they seem a lot older than they were in the first film, and so it doesn't feel authentic in that way. And so I definitely felt as though the director needed more confidence in other actors to actually portray these characters. Now, yes, as I said, these three are very iconic in the first film, and this is where I think the franchise is cashing in off that name, because they're recycling things that they know have been successful in the past. And so that's the only reason I can see older actors trying to play younger characters, and it just doesn't really work, and you feel as though, alright, they're not interested interested in actually evolving this story. They're just interested in replaying stuff that you've seen before and just cashing in off it. And so it's a world that you've seen in the first film, but unfortunately it's not as well told as the first film, but I would say it's the second best of the franchise, but it's a distant second because the first movie was so good, but unfortunately being such a good first film, the rest are just carbon copies. But I will say Origins is a step up, but it's still a movie that you're constantly asking yourself, why does it exist? And the answer is you're not quite sure. So that's unfortunate, but I would say that it was better than I was expecting. I'm going to give Rise of the Foot Soldier Origins 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.